Hello and welcome to this Orbiter 2016 video series. I'm Tex and this is episode 14 of Journey to Saturn. In the previous episode we got back up here to Deep Star. We're still by Enceladus and we planned our trip back to Earth. So in this episode we're going to go ahead and depart Saturn. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay guys, jumping right into the cockpit here. I've undocked the lander, and what I'm going to do is going to do a retrograde burn and just leave it here to burn up in Saturn's atmosphere, the same fate that Cassini had. So a couple of people commented on the last video of my suggestion on what we should do with this lander, since it basically leaves Deep Star very unbalanced and unable to really hold itself oriented for our burns. It just creates all kinds of balance issues. So we're going to leave this thing behind. We will not need it anymore. We're going to go ahead and conduct our ejection burn and get on our way back home. So let's just go ahead and do this burn real quick here, and we'll watch as Deep Star drifts away into the background. Okay, so that will do it. We immediately jumped over here into Deep Star just to save some time. The first thing that I'm doing here in Deep Star is I'm setting up TransX for our ejection burn, and I'm just trying to swing this line of nodes, the eject orientation, over the burn vector for the ejection burn. Because we're going to do a similar maneuver where we raise our apoapsis up to minimize the cost of the plane change, but it's looking like it's going to take a huge burn, actually. Relative inclination is at 70 degrees, so 70.29 degrees. So looking at the time of ejection, I'm just trying to calculate what our PET needs to be, and that way we can go ahead and we'll time it so that by the time we coast up to a high apoapsis and align our plane with the plan and come back down to periapsis, it'll be right at the time we're supposed to be ejecting Saturn. So we're burning now. I'm not sure that it's going to be able to, well, it's going to make a difference, but we're not going to be able to raise our apoapsis up as high as I would like, because Saturn obviously is so massive. In order to get a maximum fuel savings with this plane change maneuver, we really need to raise our apoapsis pretty far away, and it's looking like we're not going to really even raise it up to Titan's orbit. I don't know what the exact altitude will be, but based on what the time to periapsis needs to be, just get my notes here. So we need to get PET to 543.6 seconds, and you can see it's increasing now. So we're basically 151 days from the ejection burn. So that's, calculate that out into seconds. So like I said, I don't know what the actual apoapsis will be, the altitude. We will see it here momentarily. We're getting reasonably close now, so we'll just monitor PET, and we'll see what the apoapsis actually comes out to be. But I can tell you right now that it's not going to be all the way out to even Titan's orbit, so that's still relatively close to Saturn. You can see on the align plane MFD that the estimated burn time has come down from an insane amount of like 2,600 seconds, I guess. Yeah, 2,617 seconds down to 579 seconds, but that's still a huge burn. That's going to be probably over 4,000 meters per second, actually, now that I think about it. Something about that just doesn't quite seem right. And I wonder if this view here is not really great on the left side, but nevertheless, for right now, let's go ahead and put in our burn time, our estimated fuel remaining, into our spreadsheet. And I've added a couple of columns here, or rows rather. So we're going to do this first one here for the, because we're doing the ejection burn in two parts. So the first burn there, we'll put in the fuel remaining, and then we'll put in fuel remaining after the plane change, and then of course again after the second part of the ejection burn. So same as before, basically by doing this burn in two parts, we're able to raise our apoapsis and minimize the plane change. So we're just going to cut forward in time here, and we are at the node. And one thing that you might notice is that I changed the altitude for the ejection burn. I had originally lowered it all the way down to about 3,000 kilometers above Saturn, and my thinking there was because taking advantage of the Oberth effect, we would want to do our the second part of our ejection burn as close to Saturn as we could, but it was using so much fuel to do that, to lower our periapsis from as high as it is now down to 3,000 kilometers above Saturn, that I just didn't think that it was actually going to be any more fuel efficient. So I just raised the periapsis back up to what it normally was, and all we're doing here is simply the plane change burn. That ended up reducing the amount of delta V we needed for the plane change burn by maybe 100 seconds, but of burn time, but not too much. It's still a pretty massive burn we're looking at here. So you can see it's nevertheless relative inclination according to our plan is coming down to 0, so all's well that ends well. And again, we should have more than enough fuel for the remainder of this flight, thanks to Deep Star's very generous fuel tanks. Yeah, so basically, when I was doing this flight, I had a lot of issues with orbiter crashing. I posted on the forum and on my website rather, and on social media. Basically, I'm not sure what was causing it, but I know when I was quick saving the scenario, it was riding the lander into the TransX plan here along with Deep Star, so it was causing issues with that not working. So I don't know if that was a problem, something to do with the way we did crash the lander into Saturn, but whatever the case is, I managed to fix it by just deleting the lander from the scenario. So yeah, let's put in our delta V remaining here after the plane change. And actually, now that I'm looking at that spreadsheet, I just realized that the math is not correct over there. Something's wrong on the columns on the right. The column on the right is supposed to calculate how much. Maybe it is right. I'll look at it again in a minute. But I think I forgot, but it's supposed to calculate how much fuel we've used. So anyways, we'll take a look at it again because we're going to enter in the final delta V remaining after the second part of the burn. So we'll just time accelerate, and of course we will do a minor adjustment to relative inclination as we approach the node here. And it's probably not going to take anything but a little linear RCS. Just point the ship prograde. And yeah, just a tiny bit of linear RCS, and there we go, back down to 0. And there's a spectacular view of Saturn. Yeah, I mean, when we were visiting the moons, obviously they're all, well, not all of them, but the major moons that we visited were orbiting pretty close to Saturn's equator, so we didn't get a really stellar view of the rings. So it's nice to actually see the rings as we depart Saturn here. So taking a look at the right MFD on TransX, well, we're looking at about 2,172 flight days from Saturn ejection to Earth encounter. So it's still a long time. I'm thinking that's still probably around 6 years maybe. I think I did cut it down by putting a lot more velocity, a lot more delta velocity into the plan versus the original plan that I set up, but nevertheless it still simply takes a long time to fall back in to the inner solar system from Saturn here. Okay, so we are approaching periapsis, so let's go ahead and set up a maneuver for the trip home. So I just put in the delta velocity that was indicated for the burn. We're going to go through on the right side and clear out all of these variables so that we can see our maneuver in real time. There we go. And yeah, so basically, this is just pretty similar to the things that we've done before. So we're just going to take a minute here and really try to fine-tune this plan. So hopefully we can get a good ejection from Saturn here. All right, so we've got the plan set up, and we're going to turn on auto center here. Let's put in our delta V into burn time. So 2806 is how much delta velocity we need for the remainder of this burn. So that's looking great over there. We're going to leave Saturn behind. So I'm interested to see actually how accurate our ejection burn will be here. With all the issues that I had, and you know, I didn't really do a great job actually with the plane change, raising apoapsis up. Probably should have from the start left our periapsis up high where it is now, instead of trying to drop it down to 3,000 kilometers using Transex. But nevertheless, we're burning now, so we've got a little bit of burn time. We'll time accelerate through this burn, and we'll go ahead and wrap things up on the other side. Okay, we're back at normal time speed, and we're almost done with the burn. So about 10 seconds now, and there we go. Burn is complete. And actually, burn time did a fantastic job there. It ended the burn perfectly right at 0. Let's just use linear RCS, get delta V perfectly on 0. Good enough for me. We'll point the ship prograde, and that completes our ejection burn. We're just going to get the ship set up for our cruise mode. We will have some mid-course corrections along the way, but that will come in the next episode. And of course, we're going to put in our delta V remaining into our spreadsheet. But yeah, guys, listen, I hope you had a really good holiday and a good new year. I know I enjoyed some time off. I took some time to learn some new things. I always love learning new things. Let's just put in our delta V remaining here. So I guess the calculations... yeah, the calculations look right. Actually, no, the plane change doesn't look right. Anyways, I'll check that spreadsheet and update it in the next episode. But yeah, listen, guys, like I said, you know, I enjoyed some time off. It was good to take a break and just spend time with family, enjoy the holidays and the new year. I did have some bad news about my father, so we're expecting some updates on that today, actually. So in the meantime, I'm going to continue with this series. We have probably about 2 episodes left. I'm thinking maybe, though, it might be kind of cool to do to finish the series with a live video. So maybe do like, you know, like I did before, YouTube live video, and we could wrap up the series that way. I don't know. It's just a thought. Do let me know in the comments below what you think. It could be kind of fun to have a live streaming session to wrap up the series. We have a ways to go. Of course, we have the mid-course corrections, and we have Earth encounter. And then, of course, once we get to Earth, we have to get our crew back down on the ground using Dragon. That is faithfully waiting for us, still orbiting Earth. So that's a fantastic view of Saturn in the background, and a great way to leave the video off. So again, guys, thank you as always for watching. I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you had a great new year, holidays, all of that good stuff. And until the next episode, take care, and we will see you then.